call this digital hygiene, protect yourself online. What I found is that we, as society has progressed, we've got social media, we've got internet's blown up, and we do all this stuff on the internet, we've got all these ways to communicate with other people, but no one is trained on how to do this. Schools are just starting to allow some kind of social training when it comes to online behavior and security and how to protect yourself. They're just starting to do that, but that's in school, and I haven't stepped inside of a school in many a year, so I haven't seen any training on this other than from my work. And my understanding is that our communities don't know. As things have changed, just like you have your driver's test and you go back and your vision tested and all that stuff, and eventually at some point you have to start training again to drive just to keep up to date with the rules and regulations eventually. We don't have that kind of training now. And so I was talking with, I went to a conference with the federal, state, local, and territorial and tribal governments from around the US gathered at this conference. And I was asking the federal people, federal employees, we need some materials to hand out to the community. We need to find a way to help people understand online the risks associated with it, how to protect yourself, just knowledge about what to do when something happens. What is, I got this text message that says that I owe some money to somebody, what's all that about? I got an email from Nigeria saying that I'm gonna get $10 million. How do I get that? Like, those kinds of things. And people just don't understand where it's coming from and what's going on. So I'm hoping that this presentation kind of talk a little bit about, pretty briefly, on some topics. And there are some resources in here where you can do a little bit deeper dive if you want to know a little bit more.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Did you create the term digital hygiene, or is that a national thing?
I don't think I coined it.
It's out there.
Maybe. It's just one of those things that I you know,
okay.
I don't know if I can say I got it from somewhere, but I guess I just call it digital hygiene because it's to keep your digital presence safe and to check on it once in a while, you know, check to make sure there aren't any mold or cavities or anything like that. Just a way to check yourself, what in your presence online, etc.
Yeah.
So digital hygiene makes sense to me, and like I said, I don't think I coined it, but I found it to be useful. So this is my experience. I've been doing IT work and cybersecurity work for 30 years. I was in the military, I've done private sector, local government now. I'm currently an employee of Multnomah County. Now this is not a Multnomah County presentation at all. They don't, normally if you do these kinds of things, you have to work with their public affairs or whatever to stuff out. I'm not representing Multnomah County here, but I am using my experience to share information. I mean, my role is IT Applications Security Analyst, nothing special there. It's just I work with protecting the county data that we get from citizens and that we use to process healthcare, dental, animal control, other health and human services that we provide, roads, bridges. But the county does a lot of work, libraries, all that contain data that we would like to protect. And so that's part of what I do at the county is protect that data or help protect it. Or find weaknesses where we can improve and make it more, make it safer, or prevent a loss of data or something like that. My expertise is vulnerability. I'm not going to go into detail on this. Vulnerability management is basically making sure Windows is up to date. Like you click the update thing, I kind of track some of that stuff. Ethical hacking, how could we be attacked? And I look at that at the county level. How can we be attacked and how do we prevent attack from happening? Incident response, when something does happen, I assist in responding to that. How do we prevent loss of data? How do we isolate the system so that it's not like people are trying to break into stuff from that digitally, and they're doing that from any country. It could be in the US, could be in Korea, could be anywhere. And they'll try to take over something, and we try to prevent it from being worse if something does happen. Big data, it's basically every time you click something, every time you go to a website, every time that you text, that's data going somewhere. Big data is a collection of when things occur and that getting logged somewhere in some kind of text format. It's put somewhere, and my job is to take that massive amount of data and make it useful for my team to help protect the county or to respond when something happens. And then election security. So this is an interesting one. Somehow I've kind of fallen into where I've helped the elections division many years now, since 2015. I've helped them with each election cycle. And now that I'm in a security role, I've spent a lot of time. In fact, at that conference, I went to like 8 sessions on election security, especially with the big election coming up. So I've spent a lot of time and energy helping protect our elections, particularly in the digital space, from attacks, etc.
We're grateful you're doing that.
Yes. All right, so these are the things we're going to go over. Trusted sites, what does that mean? Phishing and phishing, smishing, what are those terms if you're not familiar with that? Go a little bit about social media, hygiene, passwords and authentication. You know, what's the big deal if my password is password? So, kind of talk a little bit about that. Information sharing. When you have some information, how you share it. Is an information source valid, or is it just somebody posted on Facebook and you're like, oh, that must be true, it's on the internet? And then, so I'll just go ahead and repeat that. Yeah.
This is being recorded.
It is.
Okay.
And then I have some links to helpful resources and then open up for questions. So trusted sites. A URL or domain, so when you go to Microsoft.com or woodstockpdx.org, plug for woodstockpdx.org, that's a site that you can go to. A trusted site could mean a couple of different things. You'll see like an icon at the top left. That means it's secure. That doesn't necessarily mean it's trusted. That just means that if you send information through, if you type something in on that page, you click submit and send it to who knows where, that information is protected between you and whoever's receiving it from that site. So if you go to a bad site, it could be secure because they're encrypting, they're making sure that data is safe, but it's going to a bad site that doesn't, it's still a bad site. So it may seem secure, but is it a trusted site? And at the bottom here, there's something called domain squatting, typo squatting. If you go to like, you see the Amazon one there, Amazon.com, people are familiar with, you go there, buy stuff. You might see a link from an email that says, hey, you should go buy this from Amazon, and the link takes you to Amazon.com that some bad person created to capture somebody going to a site, and then you put your credit card information there, and then they buy something in your behalf, and you never get anything, and they've just taken a bunch of money. It's an example of typo squatting or domain squatting, where and then they send you an email saying, hey, here's some stuff you should go, like discount 50% off. And you're like, okay, I'll go there. But if you look at the link before you go there, it's not actually Amazon, it's some other site. They're very tricky. It's very hard to track. Even in my profession, like trying to track this stuff down, you have to kind of be cynical and like, why would somebody give me 50% off? Those kinds of things.
Or they'll use the 0 instead of the O, or vice versa.
Yeah, 0 is an example. I don't think there's one here, the number being entered, but that's another thing that people do use to try to make it look good. I just realized. Okay, well, I think the social media, I don't know if I delved too deeply in that. Phishing, and smishing. Like, what is all this? These are made up words. Well, I think it was one of the Marvel movies that all words are made up. So, for those who don't know, phishing is social engineering, which social engineering is like, I know how to convince somebody to make a decision. So I can use social engineering to say, hey, I work for the city or something, and I saw that you had a ticket recently in the past 5 years, and we're just doing some research. Whether or not you've had a ticket in 5 years, you might be interested, wait a minute, I haven't gotten a ticket in 5 years, or if I have, oh wait, what's going on here? I might use some information I either gathered from online, like your social media profile, or you put it publicly that I got this speeding ticket, I'm very upset at the city. So, or a parking ticket. So, a social engineering person to scam somebody and they actually look into you and try to figure out, oh, this person has had this happen, let me see if I can use that information to scam someone out of money, or usually it's not, but it could be a number of things, trying to steal their identity, those things. It feels essentially sensitive information, or installing malware. So malware, if you click a link on a website that's bad, it gets to the point where it can infect your computer, and then your computer can be used to do other bad things, maybe without your knowledge. It can be used to attack another site, or be used to track what you're typing for passwords. Or there's some, and there are tools that can help prevent or help protect you against this. And honestly, Microsoft, if you use Microsoft Windows or if you use Apple, they try to do a good job, and they do often a good job of protecting your information. But just need to be careful, because all it takes is once, and then all of a sudden that you might have lost all your data and you have to change cards and changing your own identity and fleeing to Mexico or something. And then, so phishing is generally, it's a general term for most types of social engineering attacks. Phishing is using voicemail or even voice. If they're calling you up and saying, hey, your car warranty is out of date, you need to renew, this is actually a tactic. I think it's hilarious for me because I don't have a car. So every time they call and say, hey, your car warranty's up, not really. So they'll do a voicemail, they'll leave a voicemail and say, hey, you need to call this number. Hey, the US Justice Department is trying to get a hold of you because you've done something bad, or we're trying to scare you into making a decision and make an action, or making a decision and taking an action. Smishing is text. So over text, cell phone, they send you a text saying something, click this link here, buy this product, or visit this site to verify that it's you, and it may take you somewhere that's not legitimate. They pretend to be Amazon, you log in, and then now they can log into Amazon for you. That's a tactic. Here's a link, staysafeonline.org. Talks a little bit more about phishing. Stay Safe Online is a really good organization for finding out information how to protect yourself online.
So I just had my volunteers for the mustard seed call me yesterday. Well, so I think I have a problem. I don't know what it. So Andrea sent me this message, and she needs some money. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to. And she had already responded to the email, and I can stop and delete. And she didn't know how to delete. So anyway, she came over and I got it, and I got to report it and so on. But she just took it all in good faith.
Yes.
That our rector was contacting her and needed these gift cards and this money, and it was.
There's a term for this, it's called business email compromise. It's happened to Multnomah County. I think we recently had a email, I don't know if you saw this, Elisa. I think was it your report?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were pretending to be me to ask for funds to be sent or something like that. And first of all, it was sent to an email address, our land use committee. If I'm gonna contact land use, I don't know, it's just a weird thing. It didn't come from my email address, it came from Brett Scott, and the email address was star59@gmail or whatever. The email they compromised to get it, they just changed the name to look like it was coming from me. So it's the second thing. Third thing, asking for money. I don't ask the land use committee for money. I ask Elisa for money, and actually I wouldn't ask Elisa for money. I'd probably let Elisa take care of any payment stuff that needs to happen. And we have a method by which we work if we have to figure out how to pay something. Anyway, so you gotta
Brett, that's something I've learned is if I get something and I'm like, I click to see what the email is, because if it's somebody I know what their email is.
Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, it's it's something totally different, so I know it's fake then.
Yeah, this is,
Could you go back one?
yeah, sure.
I want to see, okay, staying safe online.
.org.
Stay safe online.
And this is specifically about phishing, that link, that whole link, but you can get to it from their site, and they have a lot of resources out there.
It'll be in the minutes.
It'll be in the minutes,
Oh, okay.
and also, this is gonna stay in the agenda. And, once we go to next month's agenda, I'll have a copy of the agenda, so you'll be able to go back to this agenda and see the links and the link to this slide deck. So the slideshow that I'm doing. And kind of to your point, Sonia, does it contain an offer that's going to be too good to be true? Is it urgent, alarming, or threatening? Like, you need to take action now without thinking, just do something. That's a red flag. You shouldn't be making choices, especially about money, in a few minutes' time. You take time, you verify who it's coming from. If you have their phone number, call their phone number. Don't use information in the email you've received or the text, because that could be from somebody that's not that person. So you want to use known good communication paths, such as an email address, you know, a separate email, you don't reply, you send a separate email, you have a phone number you call, etc. Is it generic? Is it poorly crafted? Sometimes they'll try to use Google Translate. AI is making this harder, because you can tell AI, can you translate from Russian to English, and it's going to do a way better job than Google Translate. Those kinds of things, and they try to make it look like it came from somebody that you would know. Does it sound like that? Is this how they talk to you in emails? No, it's another way to look. Is asked to send personal information or banking information. Urgency, do they need it right this minute? Strange request and email address, which we talked about, like pavpal.com or amazon.com. So yeah. So it looks like the social media slide got messed up or skipped. So what I'll say about social media is know your audience. When you use platforms, they'll have an option to post publicly. They'll have an option to post privately to your friends, etc. There's options for that. So if you say, I'm gonna be gone for a month from these days, and you post it publicly, that means that anybody in the world can look you up and see when you're gonna be out from your house, and they can try to find your address that may have been breached when, you know, Citibank.com got breached or whatever from years ago, if you live at the same address. So they could figure out where you live, and then they could have somebody go and break in and take stuff, like those kinds of things. So when you post on social media, just realize that it could be to everybody in the world. Just be careful about it. Now, we post to everybody in the world because we're a public entity, and that's kind of what's done. That's what we do. But when you do personal stuff, just make sure you're aware of what you're saying, who the audience could be. You may want to respond to what's like, hey, music in the park tomorrow. I'm going to be there. That's great. I mean, that's fine. Just know that that could maybe be seen by everybody who looks at our Instagram or our website we would respond to, but our Instagram, for instance. So, and then there's a plug for tomorrow, being the music in the park at 6:30. Please come on, 6:30 p.m. We'll start talking. All right, so I'm gonna go on to password authentication. I'll speed this up a little bit. Complex passwords, I know they're really annoying, having to use a $sign or having to use a number, but complex makes it harder for a computer to break. Because you're introducing more characters. If you use 26 characters and that's it, those are easy to break for a computer. You introduce characters like $signs and asterisks and all that, that makes it more than 26. And the same thing with application lowercase. Now you have 26 and special character. Makes it much larger pool of characters to use to figure out your password. That's what complex means.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So my children told me, just create a phrase. It can be kind of a nonsense phrase.
Yeah.
But then it's easy to remember and type versus just random things. So Wiley is a dead dog, is an example.
Yeah, sure.
That's not easy right now.
I'm ready for time.
But or, Mimi eats mice, and then I might add a number.
Yeah.
Like that. And that's really helped, because when they're really random.
Yeah, when it's a random number trying to put it in, you're like, was that a 7 ampersand? Exclamation, I can't remember, it's jumbled, yeah, it's harder for us to remember.
So that's a reasonable.
Yeah, the longer, so if you have a longer password.
But then I can make it pretty long.
Yeah, and I mean, it's harder for a computer to crack. If you're interested in knowing how that happens, I can talk about that, but I won't do it right now. But more interestingly is, later on, I'll get there, but avoid using passwords across multiple accounts. Let's say your bank account got, let's say your login to Amazon got compromised. If it's the same login to log into your bank account, now they have access to that if they know that that's your bank. And then if you use that password here, if you're using it across multiple various places, you have to go through and change them all, or they might have already gotten to all of them because it's that password now is exposed. So it's better if you can change it between using passwords in different accounts. And I know that gets very difficult very quickly, and I'm going to talk about that after I talk about this next session called two-factor. So a factor is like, for instance, since I work at the county, I have a card that gets me into a building. It has a chip in it or whatever, and I tap it and I can get into the building. So that is what you have, a trusted device, which is this card that they produce. So that's a mobile phone could be that. If they have your phone number and they text you, this is something you have, and a text goes to this phone, right? So that's one factor of authentication. Who you are is like retinal, face scanning, thumbprint, those are things that you are. And that's a way to authenticate who you are. To authenticate, that's a factor of authentication. And then what you know, like a password or a PIN. So if you have a password to a site and a PIN to a site, that's actually the same factor, it's something you know. So they're not different enough, because those can be both stolen. So if you use a password and a phone to text you, and you approve something over text or code that it's one-time use, and you don't know it, they give it to you from a trusted device. That's two-factor. Most places are now using two-factor, or what's called, also known as multi-factor authentication. I try to log into my bank account with my password, which I know, and then they send me a text saying, hey, is this you? Yes or no? Or they send it, hey, put this code into the screen, and then they know that you have the phone and you have the password. If you don't, if the person who's trying to log into your bank doesn't have your phone, they can't get in. So that's that extra layer of protection. So it's very important to consider that, especially with those sensitive accounts, such as something that has your social security number or something that has your bank account, bank information. So those are the multi-factors, so consider that. Now this last thing is called, look into using a password manager. And so if you're gonna have multiple passwords across multiple accounts, that's really hard to track. It is, for instance, Google Chrome, which is one of the browsers you can get online with and everything, it has a built-in password manager, and that is safe to use. They don't store the password just so someone can go and look at it. You have to go to that specific site. So if it go to Amazon.com instead of Amazon.com, it's not going to have a password for that because that's not the right site. So we can use the password manager to help you. Maybe you don't need to remember the password. Maybe the complexity of the password, you don't have to do a long sentence and remember that. You can have a complex password that you don't have to know because the password manager knows it, and you click the button and it puts it in for you, and then it sends you a text and you verify it as you log in. That's a valid way to help secure your account. You don't have to memorize a bunch of passwords. All right, this is going a lot longer than I thought. All right, information sharing. So this is really important, especially with the election cycle coming up. We talked a lot about misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation, and sharing information. If you find out something about a candidate that really concerns you because they're going to raise taxes, and that's a really concern for you, Well, if you find that online, someone says, this person's gonna raise taxes, and you go like, oh, okay, this person's gonna raise taxes, you're repeating information. If you don't know that that's true, then you could be providing misinformation to somebody else. Because it's not that you're creating or sharing with the intent of causing harm, but it's not correct information. You just thought it was true because you heard it somewhere, you didn't look into it or whatever, and you just believe it, and then you repeat it, you're actually perpetuating the lie potentially. That's why you have to make sure that when you have information you want to share it, make sure you know where it's coming from. And just so everybody knows, news organizations don't deal in truths, they deal in fact, what they call facts, and what they call, you know, what brings viewership. So make sure, even though a news organization thinks it's correct, or they're hypothesizing that something's gonna happen, don't necessarily take that as legitimate. Make sure you, like, just know your sources. Disinformation is information that is created to mislead, harm, or manipulate somebody. And this is, like I said, election coming up, a lot of disinformation is going to be out there where people, or, and this is true, like from the federal government, and when we talked about, there are entities out there, such as nation states, countries that have resources that are trying to influence our elections. That is happening. They try to do that. And it's not by breaking into our elections security and trying to change ballots, paper ballots or whatever, trying to hack systems. They're actually just putting bad information out there. They're trying to make people distrust our election system. They're trying to sow discord among people, among groups. So they're going to put out disinformation, trying to cause people to take that information and spread it. And malinformation is something that's a seed of truth, and then it's taking that seed and making it to, manipulating it to cause, to be malicious about it, to try to make people think that they know what's going on. It's misleading, causing harm, or manipulating the person. These are the three types of information that are used to sow, to attack, and to sow discord and to attack people. Just wanted you to be aware that this stuff's out there. Information is a method of warfare. It's a method of influence, and I just wanted you to be aware that it's out there. So just be careful in sharing information that you come across. If you think it's true, just do a little bit more with that. Make sure you trust the source. Just because a friend read it on somewhere and they share it with you doesn't mean that. Then you can say, I heard this and it's not necessarily true, but just be careful. All right. Some resources. These are a couple of slides. I didn't want to put a bunch of information on here, but I already mentioned stay safe online. And this is what they said about themselves, help protect against cyber threats, identity theft, and scams. CISA.gov, that's Federal Organization Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. It's a very good agency. Their goal is to help people know what's out there, what's attacking, and help. They work with Multnomah County, helping us understand threats to our environment, keep us up to date. We get regular briefings on things that are going on. So very good organization. And they have a K-12 cybersecurity, which I thought was interesting, because if it's good for kids, it's good for everybody. I mean, really, you learn something about what kids doing in school and about helping protect themselves. It's useful information for us too. Now, this other one is digital citizenship and online safety. I think this was referenced from the CISA.gov, missingkids.org, and NetSmart resources. It's not just about missing kids, but it's about helping teach people about protecting yourself online. And there's some other things that are a lot more serious about physical security, about safety, particularly safety at school. Like we know that that's been an ongoing issue in the US, like kids going to school and things happening. I don't want to bring up too much, but there are resources to help with knowing protection and how, and there are resources here for teachers too, to explain to students. So very good information there. And then I'll go ahead and open up to questions. We kind of had an open forum here anyway. Does anybody have any questions about this? And I'm willing to talk to anybody outside of this. But yeah. Elizabeth?
Did you write this up?
Yes.
Scratch? Is it available in a document to share?
It has been shared, the link has been shared, it's in the agenda. So back at the agenda, it has, I added it today, so it wasn't there yesterday. My section where it says, digital hygiene, that's clickable, and that'll open this up. And so all this information is available there, and I'll leave it that way.
Yeah, so I think for the
So it'll be in the
online,
minutes, it'll still be
Yeah.
clickable in the
right,
minutes
and
as
for the
well.
online newsletter,
Oh, yeah, we can add to that too.
yeah, because,
I mean, it's not, this isn't high quality, I mean, at last minute, I decided to put something that we can talk about.
for people who don't understand it, it's helpful, and, you know, like, I want to share, and my husband is all kind of weird stuff.
So what I might do though is, since I missed that section of social media, I'll go back and insert that, but I'll just insert what we kind of talked about, but yeah. Yeah, so this will be available, this is on my Gmail, so I shared it out, anybody in the world can get this link, and they can see this,
Okay, good.
which,
Yeah, it's a lot of,
all right. Oh, I'm sorry, Terry, go ahead.
What about phone phishing?
Like,
You get phone calls.
Yeah.
And they say they're trying to do something about Medicare, or Medi-Cal or something. You know, they're concerned about our Medi-Cal something. And we tend to just hang up because,
okay,
you know,
yeah, that's what you should do, hang it.
but that's fine, and, this is one thing that we've told
I
people,
mean, is that even believable?
it is for some people, I mean, some people,
Sometimes they have a little bit more information
yeah,
about you or something that, like Brett was saying before, that you maybe kind of start thinking like, oh, well, yeah, but why are they calling, you know, like, first question should be, why are they calling you? Because like, most of these things do not call you for.
yeah,
So can one assume that they say we're calling Dr. Medicare or whatever,
I mean, if you don't expect it,
Medicare doesn't call you. And they put out lots of PSAs that say, if you have a question, you call us directly.
yeah.
So, and, they would send you some kind of formatted letter
So hanging out is,
as appropriate, because there's lots of phishing going on with that.
so ideally what you do is you hang up, and if you think that there's something going on, you find the legitimate number to Medicare or whatever the org is, likely from their site that you visit normally, or, in their, if you get a letter, hopefully it's from them. Now, we gotta make sure it's coming from them and not some other place, but you wanna make sure you call the legitimate number, for Medicare or whatnot, and then you can contact them, and then you can share with them. So you're contacting them on their number, not whatever random person just calls you and says, hi, I'm the president of the United States, give me your information, like, no, that's,
Now, if you're on Medicare Advantage, which means that basically you're being managed by one of the HMOs, the healthcare managers, or whatever they call themselves. So Providence or, Kaiser, the one that's through AARP, United Health. There is a thing where some of them, Providence has done it, and then most of the others have done it. They get paid based on how many diagnoses you have. And so they call you and they say, oh, we'd just like to do a health consult, have you talk with our PA, blah, 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 blah. And what they want to do is rack up diagnosis on you so they can resubmit and get a bigger rate from the vets for you, because basically they're managing federal dollars, the vets are paying. So that's a whole racket, and lots of times they'll even offer you an incentive, like, oh, pay you $50 to complete this thing, because it's money to them, it's big money to them. So that's another thing that's going on, and it's legit people, but their purpose is nefarious. So
So it does happen. I was just gonna relate this one story from quite a while ago. Someone called some person that had, they said, yeah, we have some problem with your credit card. They said, okay, we have your information. The credit card starts with these 4 digits. And at the time, all visas or whatever started with those 4 digits, which means that they didn't know anything about your card. They just knew the 4 digits for Visa were this. And that convinced the person, oh, they must know that because my card starts with those 4 digits. And that didn't identify anything. And they ended up being scammed out of money or whatnot. So, yeah, just because, and I actually, if I don't know the number that's calling me, I don't answer it. Because on my cell phone, I have contact lists, including businesses and the Veterans Affairs and all that. And so if it's somebody I don't know, I'll let them leave a message. And if they leave a message, I can look up, that gives me time. It's not urgent, you're not talking to somebody right now, having to make a decision right now. You can deal with it at your own pace. Rarely is anything urgent enough, especially in government, that can't take a few days to take care of. So you can look on your own. So don't need to respond. And if you don't know, if you're not expecting a phone call, don't worry about it. Same thing with emails. If you receive an email, you're not expecting it, and you don't know exactly what it's about, it's probably not for you. And so we often tell people who report emails to us at Fulton County that if you're not expecting it and you don't know who it's from, it's not related to what you're doing. Just get rid of it. Don't worry about it.